All right, guys. So another day, another video of a woke teacher who decides to speak out on social media in regards to implementing critical race theory and all types of crazy woke nonsense into the classroom. This time we have a Montgomery County School District teacher in Virginia whom basically is making an argument that behaving in class and doing things like sitting still and following directions is white supremacy, and that we should not positively reinforce these behaviors because essentially you are reinforcing white culture. Take a listen.
Idea that I think a lot of people have, and I want to call that in lovingly just for a moment. Yes, America contains many cultures and many races. That is not wrong. However, the problem comes when we don't think about this idea or this argument in a racialized way when it comes to power and power dynamics. In America, as in many other parts of the Western world, whiteness is the dominant racial ideology. So when we think of power in terms of race, whiteness has the most power. So while there are people of many different races and cultures living in America, the fact that whiteness is the dominant racialized power structure, that is the problem, and that is why we have to involve race in all of our arguments and considerations. I'm on one of Miss April's recent videos about PBIS, in which I stated that PBIS is white supremacy with the hug, and a lot of y'all wanted to know more about that, so here we go. First of all, thank you to Jack Copa, who reminded me that Dina Simmons was the first to coin this term, so thank you, Jack, so much. So if PBIS concerns itself with positive behaviors, we have to ask ourselves, okay, well, what are those positive behaviors? And it's things like making sure that you're following directions and making sure that you're sitting quietly and you are in your seat and all these things that come from white culture. The idea of just sitting quiet and being told stuff and taking things in a passive stance is not a thing that's in with many cultures. So if we're positively enforcing these behaviors, we are by extension positively enforcing elements of white culture, which therefore keeps whiteness at the center, which is the definition of white supremacy.
All right, guys. So we all know that that is a bunch of nonsense, but I got some questions. Somebody tell me, does white culture exist or no? Right? Because one day the left says white culture does not exist. There's no such thing as white culture, right? Because white people are the dominant group, right? They're the dominant power structure. There's no such thing as white culture, right? And now they're saying that there's this such thing as white culture, and what they want to associate with white culture seems to be all the positive things, right? All the good things, all the things that it takes to be successful in a capitalistic society, right, is associated with white culture. And I've talked about this before, guys, how the left tries to assign desirable attributes that lead to success to whiteness, right? That's what they try to do. They try to say, well, no. Whiteness is not a race. Whiteness is how you act. It's a way of being. That's why they get away with calling people like Candace Owens white supremacists, okay, even though they're not white, because of the way she acts. You have to act a certain way to be considered white, right? And the way that you have to act happens to be in a way that is an upstanding citizen. You value education. You value critical thinking. You guys remember the that chart, right, that details out all the behaviors of like white supremacy, right? And all the behaviors happen to be like things that contribute to success, like individualism and, again, critical thinking, things like that, right? And this teacher right here, when talking about behavior in the classroom, literally is proving my point. Apparently, it is a function of whiteness to sit still and behave in class. A behavior that is not only going to lead to individual success for that student that exhibits that behavior, but also is going to lead to success for the students around that student. Because, guys, a lot of these schools are failing because students come into these schools and they act a fool in class. they have not been disciplined at home by the parents. When these students act up in class, that disrupts the learning environment. It makes it hard for the teacher to do her job. It makes it hard for students who want to learn to actually absorb information because they're always being distracted by these class clowns. That's a huge problem in our school system. That honestly, in my opinion, is one of the number one reasons why a lot of these schools are failing. But yet this behavior trait, right, which is sitting still, being quiet, being disciplined, this teacher is telling people that, oh, that's white supremacy. You shouldn't be trying to reinforce that behavior because you're trying to reinforce white culture. Even though this behavior is what actually going to lead to black students or minority students, however you want to define it, being more successful, right? Having greater academic achievement because the learning environment won't be filled with distractions and class clowns. And this is what I'm talking about, guys. These people on the left, they try to act like, oh, we're for you. We're trying to help you. We have your best interests at heart. But they want to reinforce behaviors that actually keep minorities down, that keep you doing things that are not going to be beneficial to success. Okay? Again, this is why they want to associate all the good behaviors, all that behaviors that happen to lead to success in our society to whiteness. Okay? Having proper English, using proper grammar. Oh, you talking white. You sound like a white person. Y'all heard that before. Using correct English and correct grammar is talking white. I've heard black people say that to other black people. And it's like, well, no, using proper English and proper grammar, that's just using proper English and proper grammar. Using that, for the most part, especially in the workplace when you're doing interviews and stuff like that on the job, is going to lead to more success. It's going to lead to a more professional presence. But you actively have woke revolutionaries out here that is trying to push back against that and trying to tell people, don't do things that are going to lead to success. Don't do things that are going to help you get a job. Don't do things that's going to help you learn in school. Things that are going to help you overcome whatever obstacles may be in the way, the so-called systemic racism, right? We're not going to arm you with the tools to overcome. We're just going to make you victims. We're going to reinforce negative behaviors that keep you down to make sure you don't get anywhere. And it's so offensive. It's so offensive that all the negative behaviors these people want to associate with, minorities, and all the positive behaviors, oh, that's associated with whiteness. And then they tell you, well, don't do those things. Don't do those things. Don't embrace capitalism. That's for white folks. Don't embrace hard work. That's for white folks. Individualism, that's for white people. Rational thinking, that's for white people. Don't do that. Don't be a rational person. It's insane. It's insane. So, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a black conservative perspective. Peace.